Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of June 30th, 2024. I'm your host, Shariefa Mohammed, MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Territorial gains and combat engagements. The Russian forces, divided into several groups, north, west, south, center, Vostok, Dnepr, report territorial gains and the defeat of various Ukrainian brigades in different regions. Each group of troops appears to have specific areas of engagement within the Kharkov, Donetsk, Lugansk, Dnipropetrovsk, and Kherson regions.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, where we bring you the most recent and significant developments from conflict zones. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye to discuss the latest from the special military operation as of June 30th, 2024. Colonel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's essential to provide clear updates on these operations.
Could you summarize the main points from today's briefing for our listeners?
Absolutely. The briefing outlined significant engagements across various fronts. Russian forces, categorized into groups named North, West, South, Center, Vostok, and Dnepr, reported multiple tactical advances and heavy Ukrainian losses, including personnel and heavy artillery. For instance, the North Group alone reported the defeat of several Ukrainian brigades and destruction of key equipment like the M777 howitzers.
That sounds like an intense level of engagement. Colonel, from a strategic standpoint, what does this suggest about the Russian military's approach?
Yes, the details suggest a broad and coordinated effort across multiple fronts, aiming to overwhelm Ukrainian forces by targeting their brigades and supply lines simultaneously. The mention of destroyed electronic warfare stations and ammunition depots indicates a strategic move to cripple the Ukrainian response capabilities and reduce their operational longevity.
Moving on, there were significant mentions of artillery and air defense success. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. The briefing highlighted successful counter-battery fights and air defenses, which are crucial in modern warfare. The Russian forces seem to have effectively used their air defense systems to neutralize threats from the air, like UAVs and HIMARS missiles, which are central to NATO's support for Ukraine. The destruction of artillery like the British-made S-90 and American M777 howitzers disrupts Ukrainian artillery capabilities significantly.
With these updates, there seems to be a lot of focus on the numbers and types of equipment lost. Colonel, what does this tell us about the nature of this conflict?
It's a high-stakes, high-intensity conflict. The detailed enumeration of equipment and personnel losses reflects not just the scale, but also the intensity of the engagements. Both sides are incurring significant losses, and such detailed reporting is aimed at both informing and perhaps swaying public and international opinion by showcasing the extent of operational successes or setbacks.
As we wrap up today's episode, any final thoughts on what to watch for in the coming days based on this briefing?
I'd say, watch for changes in the tactical situations on the fronts mentioned in the briefing. If Russian forces continue to make the gains as reported, it could lead to significant shifts in the control of territories. However, the resilience of Ukrainian forces should not be underestimated. And I can add, keep an eye on the international response. Operations of this scale and impact inevitably draw broader geopolitical reactions and strategies, which could influence the course of the conflict.
What about the losses mentioned in the briefing?
The briefing detailed significant Ukrainian losses across multiple regions. For instance, the North Group alone inflicted losses including 285 military personnel and several pieces of heavy artillery and vehicles. In total, losses for Ukrainian forces include tanks, armored vehicles, and various artillery pieces across all fronts.
That sounds quite extensive. What does the report say about the geographical spread of these engagements?
Engagements are widespread. For example, the South Group reportedly liberated Spornoye in the Donetsk People's Republic and engaged Ukrainian forces in several other towns. The North Group was active in the Kharkov region, affecting many settlements there.
Colonel, could you summarize the main point from the briefing for our listeners?
Yes, the briefing mentions territorial gains and the destruction of key assets. For instance, the center group of troops liberated Novo-Alexandrovka and repelled 5 counterattacks by Ukrainian forces. The strategic gains seem to focus on improving tactical positions and eliminating critical enemy infrastructure like ammunition depots and electronic warfare stations.
How effective has the Russian air defense been, according to the briefing?
The air defense systems have been very active, with numerous UAVs, guided missiles, and HIMARS missiles being intercepted and destroyed. This showcases a robust defense capability against various aerial threats.
And finally, can you touch on the overall impact of these operations as presented in the briefing?
The cumulative figures provided illustrate a significant toll on Ukrainian military assets, including the destruction of hundreds of aircraft, drones, and thousands of vehicles and artillery systems. These figures are meant to underscore the scale and intensity of the Russian military efforts.
It's a complex and ongoing situation. Thank you for providing such a clear analysis of today's briefing. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on Frontline Updates. Stay tuned for more insights and detailed reports from around the world. Stay informed and stay safe.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.